I've read David Miscavige's wife has not been seen since, I believe, her father's funeral in 2001. Like, I am very concerned about missing people, right? Whether that is, I think about, like, in psychology, we have to take continuing education credits on how to identify victims of human trafficking, for example. Like, missing people is a concern to me. And I'm kind of concerned that, like, nobody's seen her and, like, we don't have any indication of her well-being, if that is true.
She's not really missing.
Okay.
I've done 20 videos about her being missing, but that's just to troll Scientology. So can I explain it to you? Because I actually really love explaining this.
Please do.
In the Sea organization, being someone's spouse means nothing. And I'll flesh this out a bit. Mm-hmm. Compare and contrast to, let's say, the head of a giant company or, the president of the United States, mm-hmm. where being the spouse means you will travel with this person. You will be seen at their side at important events. Mm-hmm. You are known to be the spouse of this person.
Yeah.
In the Sea organization, and this is true at the lower levels of the Sea Org and the higher levels of the Sea Org, being David Miscavige's wife means zero. Nobody would know who you are. You would not travel with this person. You would not be by their side at events. The only thing that would cause you to be seen with this person, and this is true for Shelly, her job in the Sea organization was to be David Miscavige's assistant. Okay. So the only reason Leah Remini ever met David Miscavige's wife is because she traveled with him everywhere because she was his assistant, not because she was his wife. Okay. So at the highest levels of the Sea organization, the bases where they work are confidential in Scientology. The locations of these bases are not even known. So if David Miscavige, so the people who knew Shelly Miscavige were the people who worked with her. I, as a Scientologist, never heard, like, Scientologists in general have never seen a picture of Shelly Miscavige. If they did, she was not identified as Shelly Miscavige. She's never spoken on stage at a Scientology event. She's never issued a memo, a bulletin, a video. Shelly Miscavige her post was chairman of the board's assistant. Okay. Once David Miscavige removed her from that post, there was never any reason for Shelly Miscavige to ever be seen by a Scientologist again, except those people who work with her at the base where she works. And that's not just true for Shelly Miscavige. It's true for every single Scientology executive at the international base.
Interesting.
So my point is this, though. Even when Shelly was on her post, and she was on that post for, I don't know, 15 plus years, no public Scientologist would have been able to pick Shelly Miscavige out of a lineup. No public Scientologist ever heard the name Shelly Miscavige, except for people who traveled in circles where they actually interacted with David Miscavige personally, which the only public Scientologists who personally interacted with David Miscavige would have been a celebrity like Leah Remini, who at certain events would get FaceTime with David Miscavige. And therefore he might be like, hey, here's my wife, Shelly, right? But let's say David Miscavige, when he visits a Scientology organization, he travels with an entourage of executives. If you encountered that entourage, even when Shelly was in the entourage, at no point would he introduce his wife to you. She's just there as his assistant. Okay. So the fact is, the police, now the reason I think it's fascinating that Shelly Miscavige has been disappeared is because I like to highlight it as an example of Scientology does not have the tools to fix anything. It couldn't save Tom Cruise's 3 marriages. It couldn't fix whatever David Miscavige was, whatever was wrong with Shelly in David Miscavige's mind. Not even David Miscavige thought he could use Scientology to fix it. He's like, fuck you. I'm taking you off of your post and I'm sending you to the Twin Peaks base so that I don't have to fucking look at your ass every day. Now, I believe he is still married to Shelly, but she works on a remote base in Twin Peaks, California. She doesn't even work at the international base. And so the point is this: if a Scientologist wouldn't be able to pick Shelly Miscavige out of a lineup, even when she was on her post, I always push back on the idea Shelly Miscavige has never been seen since. I go, seen by who? Nobody would recognize Shelly Miscavige. In fact, one of the most recent sightings of Shelly Miscavige by someone who actually knew her is a guy named Mitch Brisker, and he ran into her at a Chipotle while she was eating with two other high-level Scientology executives. And you go, so you ran into Shelly Miscavige at a Chipotle. Okay, so the point is, anyone who saw Shelly Miscavige would not know it was Shelly Miscavige.
Interesting. Right. That is really, really interesting.
Yeah. A Scientologist who saw Shelly Miscavige would not know it was Shelly Miscavige.
I'm curious. So,
one more. Hold on to that question because there's one more big kicker here.
Yeah.
Mike Rinder and Marty Rathbun are two of the highest level Scientology executives to have ever defected. They were very close personal friends with Shelly Miscavige. Shelly being taken off of her post and sent away to the Twin Peaks base happened after meaning Mike and Marty left Scientology after Shelly was taken off of her post and sent off to the Twin Peaks base. Neither of those two people ever said one fucking word about Shelly Miscavige or her being missing or there being any concern about Shelly. None of them ever said a word about Shelly, because what happened with Shelly is not unique or remarkable. The fact that she was removed from her post happens to Scientology executives all the time. The fact that a Sea Org executive that Miscavige has fallen out of favor with Miscavige is sent off to some other base happens all the time. They never expressed 1 ounce of concern or regard for Shelly Miscavige. It wasn't until Leah Remini, who barely knew Shelly Miscavige, reported her as missing as a bit of a publicity stunt, which I'm in favor of. Like, I'm in favor of using Shelly as a publicity stunt. The problem is that now people are expected to take up the banner of, oh no, where's Shelly? We know where Shelly is. Like, where's all the other Scientology executives you haven't seen in 20 years? Right?
Yeah. That's really interesting. So this Twin Peaks,
it's a base. You can literally look it up on Google Maps. Journalists have gone there. The law enforcement has made contact with Shelly. Like, the people who tell you she's missing will also tell you where she is. So like, there are bloggers, just be a civil. I won't name them.
Yeah.
The bloggers who tell you Shelly's missing and you should be concerned for her will also take a journalist to the Twin Peaks base and say, this is where Shelly is. Then I guess she's not missing, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. If you know where, Interesting. What was it that happened to get her removed from her post?
David Miscavige had given the international Scientology executives some ridiculously impossible tasks to complete, had taken them all off of their posts, and basically said, you've got to redesign the whole international org board. He was basically, he was punishing them. He was degrading them. He was penalizing them. He was tasking them with impossible busy work. Well, what happened is one of the times that when Miscavige was off the base for an extended period of time, Shelly actually intervened to do the work all these other people were tasked with doing. And Miscavige came back and took that as a personal affront. And that was just, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, I think Miscavige was sort of losing it. He was sort of losing it. Shelly knew he was losing it. Shelly was trying to basically act as a buffer between Miscavige and the people he was essentially abusing. And Miscavige basically felt like, oh, you're siding with them? You got to go. You're out of here. You're gone. And so, there was an anecdote from a young woman who worked directly for Shelly that she saw Shelly, crying and walking to a black SUV, and the black SUV left the base. And you're like, yeah, a lot of Sea Org members cry when they're in trouble and being taken off their post. Like, the fact that she was put in an SUV is like, yeah, okay, who cares whether it was an SUV or whether it was a Honda Del Sol? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she got in a car and she was taken to the other base. It's not a kidnapping. It's not a kidnapping,
Yeah. That's really, really interesting. And one way, I'm thinking about this, obviously, because I haven't looked into this, and I hear this, and I read it from reading some of Leah Remini's kind of stuff. And it's like to me, that is a great way to get people pissed off at Scientology. And again, whether that's good or bad or whatnot. But
I think it's great. I think it's great. I think the fact that Where is Shelly has become a meme is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just that when I talk about it, I also talk about it in a way that's not dishonest.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And so there's part of me that's like, okay, for anybody that's out in California, like let's see if we can, I don't know, send me a picture of her or something, or maybe I'll go out and try and meet her and be like, okay, yes, I have empirical evidence. You are you. Not saying I don't believe you, but what I'm just saying is like having that evidence, right? Of like, no, she's really not missing.
Well, and a lot of people go, if she was really there and she was really okay, why wouldn't Miscavige just, put her photo in a magazine or have her be in the background in a video? And he because Miscavige doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks about him. Or if anything, I think he loves the fact that people are running around with a narrative that if challenged legally could be easily debunked. I think he actually loves the fact that this meme is out there and it's also false. It's better than a meme that's true, It doesn't affect Miscavige's life in any way, shape, or form that people joke about his wife being missing. It just doesn't affect his life in any way, shape, or form. And I think he's also infatuated with not feeling like anyone can force him to do anything. And he's like, I'm not going to let Leah Remini win by putting Shelly in some sort of a promo material so that people can run around and take a victory lap that they've solved the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've done 100 videos about Shelly being missing. But I also explain, in every one of those videos, I actually explain, what's happened, and that Shelly being quote unquote missing is an example of how Scientology doesn't work. That's why I like talking about Shelly being missing. Miscavige couldn't even use Scientology to save his own wife and keep her on her post so that they could live happily ever after for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Because, okay, Dianetic Scientology, it's the world we're going to clear the world and then everybody's going to live happily ever after. And it's like, it's almost like people are people. I think it's an unfortunate situation. I feel, the whole situation.
And there's another aspect of this. Realize, Shelly Miscavige might have been a kinder or gentler version of David Miscavige, but she was still one of the primary leaders of this family destroying human trafficking cult. It's not like Shelly Miscavige is in Scientology against her will.
Yeah.
Like, she's not a victim.
Yeah.
She's one of the abusers.
Yeah.
The fact that she fell out of favor with her more abusive leader husband doesn't make her a sympathetic figure.
Yeah. That's interesting too. And it's like, there's part of me that kind of wants to push back a little bit about like, what are the maintaining factors, again, keeping all these people. And I'm not saying she is a great person, but it would be interesting to see like, what are some of the influences keeping some of these people, and especially the higher ups of staying in? Because even then, it's like,
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Shelly Miscavige was practically raised by L. Ron Hubbard. She started working for Scientology when she was like 11, 12, 13, something like this.
Oh, wow.
On the ship with L. Ron Hubbard. Shelly Miscavige believes that L. Ron Hubbard is coming back. Shelly Miscavige believes in Scientology. Shelly Miscavige believes in the mission of Scientology. Even if she knows Scientology is not accomplishing its aims, she believes that eventually L. Ron Hubbard is going to come back. And if she were to leave, that would be abandoning L. Ron Hubbard. Like, she's a believer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
interesting.
And so, like, when I say she's not a victim, everyone in Scientology is to some extent a victim.
Yeah. Yep.
But someone, if they wanted to really go far out there, would say, well, doesn't that apply to David Miscavige?
Yeah.
Why is he the only one in Scientology who's not?
Yeah. Interesting. No, I appreciate the background. And like I said, I'll have to check out some of your other videos, because I do find that like really fascinating. And then two, clearly, Leah Remini was pissed off, and it's like, okay, well, again, and then this whole
now Leah Remini says it's my missing friend. It was my missing friend, and you go, then why were you guys writing letters to each other in the age of cell phones? Like, Shelly Miscavige was being nice to you because you were a Scientology celebrity. Did you ever go over to her house? No. Did she ever go over to your house? No. Did you guys ever go shopping together? No. You ever go to the spa together? No. You ever take a day off together? No. Then what definition of friend are we using here?
Yeah.
She sent you a Christmas gift? Okay, how many other celebrities did she send Christmas gifts to? Shelly Miscavige was treating you how she was treating you because she was chairman of the board's assistant and you were a Scientology celebrity. And if you were her friend, Mike Rinder was also her friend, Marty Rathman was also her friend, they never reported her missing. So why 8, 9, 10 years later, like you reported her missing after you hadn't spoken to her for 10 years? Well,
yeah.
I feel like if you were really friends and she was really missing, it wouldn't have taken you 10 years to file that report. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. A lot going on.
So, but it sounds like I'm bothered when people say she's missing. I'm not. I actually love it when people say that she's missing.
Yeah, but to be able to provide the context of like this is actually what this is. Yeah, that's fascinating.
And I guess one of the things, if I sound like I've got a slight edge to myself on this subject, it's there are people in my community who think it's not okay to explain how she's not really missing. And I'm like, you guys can you can ride that fucking train if you want. I'm not going to ride that train. I'm going to explain what's the real story is interesting enough.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, and then too, going back to this idea of, I don't know, truth and honesty.
And, you know, there's one other very prominent, I could say this for a number of Scientology executives, but one in particular, he was famous in Scientology. His name is Guillaume Lesevre, and his post was Executive Director International, and it was at least believed that he was put on that post by L. Ron Hubbard himself, whether that's true or not. This guy hasn't been seen in 20 years. So what's more interesting, that one of Scientology's most visible and famous executives has not been seen in 20 years, or that David Miscavige's wife, who almost nobody knew and nobody could pick out of a lineup, hasn't been seen in 20 years? They're both interesting, but you only, poor Shelly. Where's Shelly? Where the fuck is Guillaume? No one cares about Guillaume. No one, where's Ray Mithoff? You know, no one's seen these. So the most famous high-level Scientology executives, no one's seen them in 20 years. But everyone cares about Shelly because because of the missing persons report. Shelly, it's not that nobody should ever be concerned about Shelly.
Yeah.
It's that if that concern was as well-founded as some people want to make it seem, they would have the same concern for the other Scientology executives for whom that's true. But there's zero concern there. So both can't be true.
Kind of drawing that discrepancy of like, well, this is a trend, right? So like, why stop with this one person when there are these other people who haven't been seen as well? Yeah, that is really, really interesting.
And especially when many media organizations have literally been escorted to the base where Shelly works by one of the main guys who says she's missing and says, here she is. This is where she works. It's like, then why do you keep saying she's missing, dude?
Yeah. That seems contradictory. Like, what do you mean she's missing if she's...
Because her family hasn't spoken to her. Wait a second. You mean family members you're speaking to haven't spoken to her? Mm-hmm. But the fact that you keep saying these family members speak to you would literally be the reason Shelly doesn't talk to them. Right? Yeah. So it's like, you mean Shelly hasn't been seen by anyone who A, recognized her, and B, told you about it.
Yeah.
But nobody would recognize her, and almost nobody who would tell you about it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.